How's it going, everybody? You're listening to Garage Built Baits, and I'm your host, Wyatt. You can check out the main YouTube channel, Buyer Lure Co. Just put up a new bait making video on that channel. And you know what? We are putting up another bait making video on that channel pretty soon. I got to talk to Victor in this episode, sit down and talk to him about his baits that him and his wife are making. And I would say they are unique, they are innovative, and they're striving to make a ripple in the bait making industry. So we're going to sit down, talk to Victor, and if you feel so inclined, you can support the podcast down below at that Buy Me a Coffee link. But we will get into the episode. Thank you. You know what? We'll just get straight into it. So, this is.
Sorry to interrupt. Just the beginning. I have watched a couple of episodes. I'm not sure what's your policy on like light swearing.
Oh, dude, drop some fucking F-bombs, dude. Like, I know in your
Okay,
video,
great.
the first, like, YouTube video I watched to you, and you were, like, making the drum wake bait, and you were like, oh, like, fuck this. And I was like,
Yeah.
all right, sweet.
Yeah. Okay. I just know that many people are afraid of demonetization and all of this scary birds, so that's why I had to ask.
No, it's all cool. Like, when I upload the episode, I just have to, like, label it, oh, yeah, this has, like, explicit language in it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we'll get right into it. Just, like, introduce yourself, like, tell the people, like, what you do.
Yeah. So it's a pleasure to be on. I was really happy when you reached out. My name is Victor, and you can find us under the name of Hun Lures on Instagram and now on YouTube as well. I'm a bait maker, and we are. I mean, this is a joint effort with my wife. She is the one who's fulfilling the orders, and um, if someone orders something, they will get my wife's bait. I'm more responsible for coming up with ideas, coming up with new designs, and most of the 3D design stuff that goes into this. And basically, we are just striving to deliver lifelike, realistic baits, as close to realism as possible. That was always my goal, but I feel like now we are getting close to that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a really good line that we have now called the hyper realism baits, which are, I don't know, I'm hypercritical about my work and what I do, and honestly, we will just leave that line as is, because I feel that we have achieved everything with that. That includes the big bass bait and some sunfish swim baits and glides. So we have been making baits since 2021. I think that's when we started the Instagram page or something like that. I've made baits before that. I mean, I made a lot of baits for myself, but during the pandemic, I had a lot of time on my hands, and to be honest, I was always a cheap ass. I don't like buying expensive baits when I can just go to Home Depot, get a stirring stick or whatever, and just start whittling on it and start painting it. Then I will do it myself, and then I will have color options as well. So that's where it all started. And then my wife said that, yeah, people seem to engage really well with this on Instagram. They seem to like what I do. So uh, if I can come up with ideas, and then if she can develop this into a company, then um, there might be something there. So that's where it all started.
Mm-hmm. And you know, people at home listening or watching this, you know, they can tell that hey, you have an accent, so let's
Yeah,
take it back. Where are you from originally, and just go from
yeah.
there.
So this ties on really well to a frequently asked question: what is the name of the company, Hun Lures? So we are from a country in Europe called Hungary, and you know that's where Hun Lures came from. Um, so many Americans learned in history classes and lessons about Attila the Hun. Yeah, he was one. We are descendants of the Huns, so that's where the company name comes from. We actually moved to the United States in 2020. I mean, I moved here in 2020. My wife and my kids moved in 2021, and yeah, that's where the accent is from.
Yeah, I'm gonna be super honest right now, because you were like, oh, I'm based in Georgia, and you know, before when we were messaging, you were like, oh, you know, I'm from Hungary, and so I was like, all right, cool. And then when you were like Georgia, it didn't register like, oh,
Yeah,
United States, Georgia. I was thinking of like the country, and like
yeah, yeah, yeah,
afterwards, I was like feeling so stupid. I was like, oh yeah, like Georgia, like the state, like.
yeah, yeah. I live near Atlanta, um, and yeah, that was the other motivation why I started fishing, because Georgia is just so blessed with so many different options for fishing. I mean, I'm still envious of the pike and musky fishing community, but we have trout, we have bass, we have stripers, we have good game fish. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just so much better. When I moved here, um, I immediately dived into fishing, because back at home, fishing was fun, but we mostly have trash fish. We have carp, um, really lazy bottom feeding river fish. You know, I don't even know the names of them in English. They are mostly like Chinese invasive species, sort of like carp. So fishing for them is really not fun. Yeah, I mean, fishing is fun because basically you just pre-chum them with corn, uh, go out with like a couple of six packs, and then get hammered and get a bite like 14 hours later. So it's a different kind of fishing, but here it's actually exciting.
Yeah, I know what I've seen videos of like people in Europe, specifically like English fishermen, and they're going after carp. Like they have like a little kind of tent that they set up, and they
Yeah,
have their chairs, and they chum the carp, and they're sitting there and they make tea on their little jet boil. It's a whole thing.
yeah, yeah. Now comparing that to fly fishing, where you constantly just have to move around. It's a completely, and like, this is a legit sport. That's fishing back at home. It's like a pastime activity, but it's not sport.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, uh, so yeah, we are from Georgia. We moved here in 2020, and I think we immediately started making baits.
Mm-hmm. And so, like, what does you guys' fishing look like in Georgia? I'm feeling like it's primarily you guys are going after bass.
Yeah. Um, Now, to be honest, I really like bass fishing, and that's mostly what I do. But my heart is with trout fishing, in the like lower Appalachian mountains. there's just amazing little hidden streams everywhere. I like to go up there. It's really fun. But I found out early on that I don't really have the dexterity for tying flies. Um, and I always had to do something with my hands, whether it was drawing or pottery or whatever. Um, so it's I need a creative outlet where I can tinker with something. So fishing for trout is amazing here. It's not as good as Colorado or you those bit more northern states, but it's still pretty fun. Bass, it's uh, it's hard. Um, it's a hard topic because, like, if I'm not mistaken, then like either the world record or the U.S. Record comes from Georgia. That 22, 23 pound bass.
Mm-hmm.
So it's commonly viewed as a really good fishing state for bass. But the thing is that we have really big reservoirs. You need a boat to go out and catch those big guys and big girls. Currently, I don't have a boat. I'm mainly a bank fisherman, or I tag along to my buddies or whatever. Uh, but bank fishing around here is hard because, especially during the COVID, like I know that this is a tendency that was present in every other state in the U.S. That there was this big fishing boom, so everyone got started going out there, started fishing, and they just overpressured everything. And the other thing is that Georgia folks actually eat bass. So I I cannot really count the amount of time that I saw someone catching a 5 pounder and then immediately putting it in the bag and pulling the ass out of there. So because 5 pounder will be a good Sunday dinner. So yeah, I can't really blame them, but at the same time, that's why I keep catching dings. So
Mm-hmm. But yeah, especially I know like up here where I'm at here in South Dakota, like it's pretty common to keep fish too. And I know I've been bass fishing before, and some like old timers are like, "Oh, you keep that?" And I'm like, it's not a big bass, and it's like, well,
yeah,
no, it's not that big, but also like, it's like I'm not keeping these anyway, so I don't even know like regulations for keeping them.
yeah, that's why I really like the that movement in the replica space of making these almost exact replicas out of resin and whatever. So slowly replacing the taxidermy. I don't want taxidermy as a business to die, but taxidermy has so many other uses for big bucks or whatever other game you are hunting. Taxidermying 12-pound bass, it it's bad for everyone because at the same time, if you look at taxidermied fish that are like 20, 30 years old, they are brown and they look ugly
Mm-hmm.
on the wall. But these new resin replicas, they are saving a lot of these big hogs uh,
Mm-hmm.
or multiple catches. So I think that's one of the best things that happened in around fishing in the past 5, 10 years.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you even look at programs like Texas with
Yeah,
their
that's the other thing.
yeah, with their share lunker program and everything with that. It's like it's not a perfect system by any means, but you can't like argue with the results of these huge fish
Yeah,
coming out of Texas.
yeah, absolutely. It's amazing. I mean, for two reasons. First of all, conservation. Second of all, um, those people are my main customers. So
Yeah.
you don't
Well,
necessarily want to fish 1 or 2 pounders with these big resin baits. So
hmm it's it's really interesting though how even a small fish will follow or you know try to
yeah,
eat one of your bigger baits.
yeah, and that's the other thing that ties really well into the shell hunker program. It's not just cultivating these fish for size, but also for temperament. Like uh, this ba- this best strain that's in Florida, Texas, Georgia, in these lower southern states is just so ridiculously aggressive. It's much more fun than fishing for native bass in Europe. They are, kind of lazy. But yeah, uh, I caught. I think one of my most ridiculous catches was on my big bass swim bait. I caught 8 ounce bass. The bass was actually smaller than the bait itself, and I was just swim testing baits. So
That's that's crazy, dude. Um, you mentioned earlier you get jealous of some of the guys like in my area with muskie and big pike. I know one of the guys that has a couple of your lures over. I think he's from Minnesota and he does YouTube like null spells or
oh yeah,
yeah.
not bad. I love Layton. He made like I think now we are up to like 5 videos
Mm-hmm.
on my bait. Uh, yeah, he 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 actually uh, made a video on my big bass swim bait uh, like 2 months ago. Yeah, I love that guy. Also, it's just basically fishing ASMR because that guy has a ridiculously soothing voice. So
Mm, yeah. Yeah, for sure. And that's how I first like got introduced to your baits is I was watching him and I think he has like your chipmunk and then like you said
yeah,
he has the bass. Um
yeah. I
I don't
made
remember what other ones he has.
a walleye glide bait.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that was a funny one. He actually caught like 5 6 muskies on it, and then finally it was completely destroyed by an otter. It just came up and started chewing on it and basically chewed the clear coat right off. So that was a funny one. Yeah, but there are a couple others. I don't. Oh, I think he has one of my gator baits, an older version.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, I don't remember what was the fifth. But yeah, he's a good guy. I really like him.
Yeah, it's like you said, his like fishing videos are like ASMR. I really enjoy watching him, and then I also really enjoy watching. I don't know if you watch it, ND Yak Angler.
Oh yeah.
And he also catches just huge pike, smallmouth,
Yeah,
and muskies.
yeah, yeah. But actually, the walleye glide video was one of their collaboration videos.
Oh,
Nathan,
gotcha.
yeah, yeah,
No, yeah, that's how I first got introduced to your lures, and then you're actually doing some really interesting stuff. Um, I think you have a pre-order out for the one
yeah,
lure that you can switch out,
yeah.
so it does different things.
Yes, it's this bait.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm I already sent out like the first 2 rounds on this one. This is something that I really wanted to develop for a really long time, because okay, let me just quickly show what I'm talking about. Um, because I have a couple. them painted up. But basically, this bait has this lip slot that goes into the bait really deep, like this deep. And then you have different lip options. Like this one, this is just a basic lip that fits perfectly well into the bait and hides it seamlessly. Now the thing is that these lips are hollow inside, and I can put different weights in them. And with that, just a second. So yeah, with that I can actually directly influence the sink rate of the bait. I can put in lips that, so these are all magnetically connected inside. There are magnets in the fish right here, and there are magnets at the end of these lips. So they will slide in and they will lock in place. And these are hollow. So I can put in different weights. Based on that, I can influence the sink rate. These can be lipless wake baits, slow sink, or even medium or faster sinking baits. But I can also put in little crank down lips or wake lips. Now, these don't have any weights because I want these to float. And so, yeah, yeah, and I completely forgot the other main feature is that I just don't have this on hand. That this is a three-piece bait, but there's a silicone joint fixer that goes right here, and with that, this is like a really firm in-cure silicone. And with that, you can fix these two joints. Now, the last one don't have any hook hangers, so you know this joint is actually not pressured. Silicone is enough to keep it in place, and with that, you can actually convert it to a two-piece glide bait. You just have to pop in a lip that's weight for extra slow or slow sink, and pop in this silicone, and you have a glide bait. So basically, this bait can be converted into a lipless wake bait, three-piece, slow sink, medium or fast sink swim bait, or a crank down bait, or a lipped wake bait, or no, a lipped wake bait or a glide bait. So basically, I wanted to cover everything that's out there. You know, obviously there are other different types of big baits with wings or whatever, but basically these are the main different types because I feel like the market is a bit out of sync right now with the customers. These big baits go for insane amounts of money, and I see people buying multiple different color options, different big baits for everyone. When I look at these big YouTubers, I can actually count the thousands of dollars that are in these different boxes, and that's unattainable for most people. So what I wanted to do is just deliver the most value or the most bang for your buck that you can get. And also, the other thing is that you don't have to retie this bait. You can just tie this on, leave this on, and just pop in the different flips. If you see fish that's like a bit deeper than your wake lift bait could reach, then you just pop in a crank down lip or whatever. So that has always been one of my focus points, is that I know that I can sell baits at a ridiculous price point, but I want to make baits that I would buy myself, and then and every time I'm making a bait, I will make 5, 10, 20 of those baits, calculate the material costs. I mean, my wife does that part, but she will calculate the material costs and calculate how many hours it took her to make those baits. And we know what our hourly job is paying us during the weekdays, because both of us have regular jobs, and then calculate a good hourly rate for ourselves. And we try to stay, let's say, 30, $40 an hour, and then we are good. But at the same time, for example, this is a really good example for that, because paying this exactly takes ridiculous amount of time. So especially if we would introduce unknown factors, then this would be impossible to sell. So obviously we couldn't make this out of wood, even though I love wooden baits. Those are my true passion, but wood has so many unknowns. The density is just not uniform enough. You can buy the same two boards without any knots, and the moisture content or whatever will throw everything off. So you cannot really calculate based on predetermined equations. Now you can cast these out of resin, but the problem is that this bait has so many these narrow compartments. Resin would just break immediately, even if I would reinforce it with glass fiber or whatever. These nib slots would break immediately. So these are actually 3D printed. I have a couple of baits that I 3D printed, because I also like 3D design. There are a couple of things that can only really be achieved with a 3D printer. And at the same time, I know that if I would do the same bait from wood, it would take me 3-4 times as long to do the exact same bait. I have two good examples for that. So I have these two rats. One of them, this is the original chipmunk. This is made from poplar wood. So this is hand carved. And I like this. This was one of the best seller bait that we ever produced. But at the same time, we have this new version where the fur detail is just ridiculously good. I like the shape of the face. I like everything about this. So if you put these two right next to each other, I would buy this one first and I would buy this one second. But at the same time, I have to be honest, and we have to be honest with ourselves and the customers as well. So even though this, in my opinion, is just a better looking bait, we sell this for $50, I think, 55, something like that, and this goes for 120 because it just takes that much longer. So that's what I mean, is that even though we could sell these baits at the exact same price point, this was 3D printed. I just started up the printer, or my wife started up the printer. and we got our almost finished bait out of it. We just have to paint it and clear coat it, and that's it. This takes a long time, and there's nothing that can be standardized about this bait. So it's much more work of art than mass manufactured bait. So we are basically pricing baits off of that. But we bought this 3D printer with this in mind because I know that fishing these red baits, these bigger red bait baits, is a ton of fun. But at the same time, you cannot really pinpoint a single manufacturer that sells red bait baits at an affordable price point. Now, okay, this was a bit of an exaggeration because the past year there were like 2-3 companies that got into that space. Like Mike Buka came out with their version of the Rat, and those also sell around $50 ish, something like that. Those are, I think, resin cast baits, and they also look really nice. But traditionally, these big red bait baits sold for 100 plus, and then we wanted these baits to be more attainable. So we are lucky because I like to spend a lot of money on stuff for my garage. So we have the option to reach for a 3D printer or to a CNC or this and that. There were baits that we did in the past that was completely done under a CNC out of wood. But now we started going a bit more into soft plastic baits.
Mm-hmm.
Solely because, as I said, I'm coming up with ideas, and my wife is making the baits, and I like fishing soft plastics. That's the profound reasoning. There's nothing market research behind that. No, nothing like that. Like the brown trout
Mm-hmm.
that we just released. I made this bait because I'm fishing this. I think we sold a couple hundred, at least twice as many as in my tackle box. I just like fishing soft plastics, and also I like the challenge. I like the challenge of trying to paint these because I think that's one of the things where the US is still beaten by mostly European companies. The fact that it might just be my lack of knowledge or shortcoming or whatever, but I can't really pinpoint any US based soft plastic manufacturers could that can achieve real realism on soft plastics. There are a couple that come really close, but I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about, are those subtle variations and abnormalities in the scale pattern that make it realistic, that nothing is really uniform. You can tell that it's handmade, but at the same time it's made with such a for most companies unattainable technique that I know at least 2-3 Swedish companies and one Slovakian companies like Napravchik. I think Napravchik SK is one of these top plastic manufacturers or makers, because he's also a garage bait maker. He makes ridiculously like frogs and craws and sheds, and also Vestin. Vestin is just the king in soft plastic swim bait realism. So that's the next big goal that I'm trying to achieve, because right now I'm all set on wooden and resin baits. I think I will do one more just for myself. One more bait for the big resin baits, which will be again in this hyper realism lineup, trout. Uh, I'm not again. This is just me. This is just because I want to throw it. There's absolutely zero market research behind that, and this is not driven by the need of the people. Because if you throw a rock randomly in the US, you will hit a garage where a trout glide is being painted up right now. There are so many trout glides in the market, and also I have to be honest with myself, and as I said, I want to produce value for the customers. I want to produce value for myself, and everyone has to bow their heads sometimes. There are companies out there who do such an intense dialing in of their baits and research and development that goes into these baits that I could never come even close to that. And, just to mention names, KGB just came out with their trout glide. So I'm not trying to compete with them. The action on those baits is so ridiculously dialed in. You know, I'm not gonna make a shed glide, and I'm not gonna make a trout glide with the hopes of um, making it big, because KGB is out there, and they are just better in that niche. So yeah, now it's soft plastic time.
Mm-hmm. And so, I know you said you guys have options to reach for different things. So with your soft plastics, um, are you guys CNCing like an aluminum mold for those, or are you guys 3D printing molds for your
3D
soft
printing.
plastic? Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, um, I learned a lot of graphic design for my work and on my own as well, 3D design specifically. So that helps me a lot in achieving more lifelike scale patterns and facial details, all this stuff. So um, because of that, I'm lucky that and I have a 3D printer, so I'm all set at the front. I can make my own 3D printed molds. Um, Once bait is really dialed in, like this brown trout, then I'm moving on to CNCing aluminum molds, just for durability reasons, because it's much easier to inject those. But yeah, the majority of the baits that are in development right now, they are in UV resin modes, and um, I'm now trying to figure out how to pour bigger swing baits into um, silicone modes, because there are a couple of things that you cannot really do with aluminum modes, like really good dorsal fins. Yeah, no chance. Also, the resolution of CNC molds is just not there. So, everyone loves CNC molds, but at the same time, thinnest, the thinnest router bit that I have is around 0.7, 0.8 millimeters, and I'm blowing through them like I crazy fast. I have to buy them. buy the box. Um, they are not durable, they are really slow, and at the same time, that basically limits your resolution to zero point 0.7 millimeters, which is really not enough. It's really not enough for good realism. Now, with a 3D printer, I can go down to 0.02 millimeters, and that's much better. Luckily, there are a couple of different silicones that can actually capture those details. That, for example, I really need it for the realism baits. It's so annoying. I keep turning back because they are on the wall, but I was a dumbass and I didn't actually grab anything, and they are nailed to this contraption.
Yeah, yeah, I see on your Instagram story they had up a while ago. You had just put up that shelving.
Yeah. I just threw this up because um, I want to buy another CNC, and I just needed to make some room here in the garage. So yeah, because of that, right now everything is in UV resin mode. I feel like they work really well. I don't really have any issues with durability, and also I have really good friends in that maker space who can give me advice on um, layer base layer counts and what type of resin to buy and all of these different things that 3D printing is just another art form. um, I only got my first 3D printer, I think, like half a year ago, so I'm still learning in that, but luckily there are a couple of guys like Lazy Baits, and now he's he formed a second company just for mold design, uh, and he has been a tremendous help for me. Um, yeah, but it's a lot of fun. I like doing soft plastics. It's sometimes it's frustrating, but also it's much faster.
Mm-hmm.
And
So with your molds, are they open pore or are you injecting them?
there are some open pores, and most of them are injected. Um, I think the currently we are only selling the white soccer open pores, which is basically just uh, I did nothing special there. I designed that from scratch, but I basically just took that um, famous open pore paddle tail swim bait that everyone's pouring right now. The one with the flat top open pore paddle tail, and I flipped it around because I wanted to make a white sucker where you can rig the whole thing with weighted hooks, uh, and it will hug the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, that's what it's designed for. It's not necessarily a swimming bait. It's much more in the realm of Ned rigs or whatever. Yeah, it's a lot of fun, especially in the winter.
Yeah, yeah, just crawling it slow on the bottom.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly it. And the pedal tail is just there to give this erratic motion. So right now I'm mostly fishing three different soft plastics. One of them is um, this shed. It's a dying shed. It's basically a variation on the 6 Sense panorama. It's for the exact same purpose. It's rigged the exact same way. It's just a dying shed. But I designed I designed the shape to have one more purpose, which is basically if you side rig it with a weighted hook, it will go down in this like circular motion, just flailing around. It's really fun. It can, so because of its shape, you can basically just twitch this in place, because if you rig it on the side and just twitch it really fast, it will kick upwards and then fall back to the same place. So you can just keep twitching it basically in the same place. You'll go up and go down. And that's from the bank. So, instead of coming closer, you can just keep twitching it when you cast it like 30, 40 feet out there, and still it will stay in place. So this dying shed has been one of my main confidence baits in the winter. This brown trout has been amazing, but not recently, because it went down to the 20s and 30s in Georgia as well, so nobody's chasing anything now. And also that white sucker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
it's a lot of
so,
fun.
yeah, and so you're painting these soft plastics. Are you doing that with the airbrush then?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm painting it with an airbrush and also hand painting it. The trout spots, they are hand painted. Um, and also I'm trying out a lot of different techniques, because it's just a fun medium. It's really challenging for me, because I'm really new to this, and I don't claim to know anything about how to make soft plastic baits. There there are ridiculously good soft plastic bait makers out there. That that's why I can just doom scroll on Instagram for hours looking at these people's profiles. Um, but soft plastic is a new medium for me, and I think there's a lot of untapped potential in it that people don't really capitalize on. Like the fact that you can just buy a completely translucent clear coat for these soft plastics, and you can just heavily spray it on. Um, the whole setup would cost you, I think, around 60, $70 with a compressor and the cheapest airbrush gun from Harbor Freight or whatever, and you can spray clear coat. But what that basically means is that you can do whatever you want with your soft plastic before you clear coating. So that means that you can actually play with fun stuff like mica powders. And I don't really see makers doing anything with it, because, okay, I know the reason why. The reason why nobody is doing anything with mica powders and soft plastics is because you would have to apply mica by hand. That would mean spending 3-4 minutes at least on a bait that you can only sell for $2. It's not really a smart business decision, but at the same time, I just like playing with these. So I'm trying to uh, I'm trying to tap into mica powders and how I can use them much more effectively on these baits. And basically, I have these huge boxes. They are all filled with Dollar Tree, Michaels, whatever, little itty bitty plastics, big plastics, sparkling shit, whatever. I, I'm pouring so much fun stuff around here. It's a lot of fun, but I especially like painting, like hand painting with mica powder. It gives this really cool shining effect that you cannot really achieve with any other out there. So like, you're really limited on hard baits. I try to use the most shiny stuff out there. That's why I mostly paint with metallic paints, but they are still really dull. Uh, okay, once you clear coat it, it gets a bit better, but they are still kind of dull. Then I tried doing aluminum foiling. It's not bad, but as soon as you clear coat it, it gets much more glossy. Uh, but soft plastics and mica, now that's an interesting combo because there are these mica powders out there that it's used by the nail industry. Uh, what's the name of that? Doesn't matter. So nail artists, that's basically pure chrome mica powder, and with that you can actually come close to something that herring or shad, really shiny gizzard shad, looks like, and that pure sparkling. I just want to capture that somehow, and I found that I think soft plastics is the way to go if I really want to achieve that. Mica powder and then clear coating of that. That seems to be working really fine. It's just an exciting time for me because I can experiment with stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what I like. Uh, you know, the end goal would be to develop big soft plastic glides. That's obviously like the end goal for many bait makers currently. I think
Mm-hmm.
because that's where not the European but the Japanese market is ahead of us. They have these 10, 12-inch soft plastic glides that look really cool. They have amazing action, and they cannot be found anywhere in the US. I mean, I think 6, 7 inch is the closest that you can get, and only because with a 6-inch glide you can get away with shitty action.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well, so like the soft glad baits. Yeah, you can. So like the most popular probably being like the flag, like 255, but those are very expensive,
yeah,
and but with that, some people are doing like really cool paint jobs with them. So if you look at on Instagram, Garrett's Customs, he does a
yeah,
lot of soft plastic painting, and
yeah. I love that guy.
because there's not a ton of people doing that.
Yeah, yeah, and I appreciate those people. I don't know why. More, okay, again, I'm lying. I know why people don't do this. It's just fucking gross. I don't know if you ever smelled soft plastic paints, but they are filled to the brim with these ludicrously toxic and cancer-inducing solvents. And so, if you don't have a really good, well ventilated area that is specifically set up for this purpose, then there's no chance that you're gonna do this. Like they are they have a really low combustion point. They are really flammable. The odor just lingers around. The way I'm painting those is outside.
Mm-hmm.
I just have to grab my compressor and everything and just move outside. And even then, the neighbors will complain because it's bad. It's bad. So I think that's the main reason why people don't do that. Also, it's kind of a new thing, like these spy kit um, paints only recently came out, and I think they are the only company who are producing solvent-based soft plastic paints. There are some other companies who produce water-based soft plastic paint. That's the main reason why I'm interested in these European bait makers is because they are doing something completely different. They are not using these companies, they are not using these paints. And there are some things that I know how to do with uh, hard bait, but I have zero idea how they do it on soft plastic. So it's just a fun guessing game. I can sit in front of those Instagram accounts for hours trying to picture how they painted or how they achieved different patterns. It's mind boggling. Yeah, but the bread and butter is still hard bait, and that's what my wife is focusing on, getting ready for um, more summer expos. Um, so right now, the main reason why I focused onto this segment of the workspace and not any other part is because there's like 800 baits are just laying around everywhere. She just finished boring. Where is it? Yeah, she just finished pouring 300 of these tiny glides.
Mm-hmm.
So, and, and I think like 150 of the big best glides. Now, next week is wooden baits. So, we are getting ready for, hopefully, we can go to iCast. We definitely want to go to the gathering. Uh, I'm not sure. I'm really not sure what expos to hit this year. Honestly, um, last year was not really a good experience for us in terms of expos. But who knows? Like this year, I think last year was the year of normalization in terms of like descending back to a regular pattern in the market, in the fishing bait market, because like obviously everyone knows about that. During COVID, everyone had a lot of disposable income. They needed to social distance, so they just started pouring a shitload of money into garage built baits, and so everyone was selling these baits for like $250, and there was a huge market for that. But now people can actually do stuff with friends that is fun inside of a pub or whatever. Definitely not freezing their asses off in pond or lake or whatever. So I think last year was a really good indicator for where the market will settle down, because we for the first time saw a couple of big companies actually reducing prices and getting into a new comfortable system or stasis. And yeah, we will see what this year brings. But last year was last year was bad. I don't know how many people I talked to. I mean, last year was bad for bait makers. I don't know how many people I talked to went to expos with 1,000 baits and they sold like 50.
Mm-hmm.
It's, and we could all see this on Instagram. Obviously, you follow a lot of bait makers, and after the gathering ended, you saw these big accounts dumping their baits on Instagram because they didn't sell out. And last year was the first year when this happened. Like, the gathering in 2022, everything went like the first day. Um well, it will be interesting. It will be definitely interesting. I think prices have been overinflated. Also, um, the bait making market is getting more saturated. There are more and more bait makers. Like I am, I know I'm part of the problem who started making baits during COVID, but you know, I hope that I can add something extra, um, either like something extra in value. So um, I saw a lot of companies who are still blindly in that mindset that they can sell these basic ass baits for like $150. I don't know how many new accounts I see with drop alert. This check out this new 7-inch shed glide. Like, okay, it has like 3 colors, the most basic gill pattern, and 2 eyes from Dead Meat Customs. That's it. And that's why someone and you know those like I don't know how well you are actually paying attention to what kind of brushes those tails are made of, but I can immediately pinpoint the ones that are from Dollar Tree. And so when I see those, the problem with that is that if you are putting those brush tails on baits that weigh more than 2-3 ounces, in the first cast, those brushes will bend to the side, and there's just no way of regaining shape. So I see these baits that have zero creativity. They think that they can just copy other bait makers or what they see on YouTube, and then they are entitled to the big bucks. So this phenomenon is still going on, and yeah, I so the fishing community is being reduced back to its like normal level, but also I saw I see more and more companies just disappearing, which is also good because the bait making market also needs to um, settle in a new local minima. So we will see what this year brings. But you know, we are not really we are not really concerned by that because we mostly do this for fun. Like my wife has a 9 to 5 job. I have a 9 to 5 job. So this is mostly for relaxing. And if my wife can sell baits on the side, and if then I have permission to just screw around with whatever I like. And that means that I can do topwater crawlers or uh, yeah, or or this alligator,
Yeah.
yeah, which is you know this is where my heart lies. I just like doing creative stuff. I definitely don't envy her because she's like pouring 300 baits. It's not fun.
Hmm.
It's really not fun. Painting 300 baits to the same pattern, it's really not fun. But you know, it is what it is. Like that's why that's why we can sell these at a lower price point at the same time. Uh, like okay, you know, there are definitely baits in the store that are expensive, really expensive. But we also try to offer baits at at a really good price point where most people can afford it. Like I just showed that this glide.
Yeah, and
The
that's
the
that's like a good size too. I think
yeah
going to an expo, I think people will be drawn to that size more if they don't throw swim baits because
yeah
it's not, it's not a big 9 inch,
yeah
glide
yeah
bait.
yeah because at the same time most people don't have the equipment to throw those baits. So that's why I came up with this, is because I don't necessarily like to carry 5 different rods with me when I'm going to my local ponds. Um, so yeah, for example, this one, I think we are selling this for $40 or something like that. Just, trying to keep everyone happy. Us happy because it's still worth it, and the people happy. But I don't know. I'm much more into the YouTube side of stuff. Last year we started organizing um, fishing competitions or championships, which was really fun. It was basically like I came up with a new bait that we didn't have in the store. This was actually one of them, and the 3D printed rat wake was the other one. And it's basically first come, first served. 10 people, we were supplying them with these baits. So everyone had to fish the same bait for like 2 weeks, and then biggest fish wins. Uh, I just like interacting with people more. So and also like YouTube gives me this creative outlet. So because as I said, I don't like repetitive stuff. I like coming up with bait, then moving on to the new one. So that's why I have basically one of these. Oh, okay, it's not in the shot. That's good. One of these ridiculously big boxes contain at least 50, 60 projects that were never actually finished because I was not happy with the facial details. So I started doing a snake bait, and then I was not happy with how the snake swam. So I started doing um, flat side retrieve, sinking swim bait, or whatever. Um, I just like that stuff, and luckily on YouTube, people are also gravitating towards that. I was taken back a bit by the success of YouTube um, because we haven't really uploaded many things, um, and in like 2 weeks we got to 17,000 people,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
17,000 subscribers. Uh, because if you've been following the Instagram account for a while, there's no speaking. I'm not speaking on there. My wife is not speaking on there. And that mostly comes from the fact that when we first met people from the fishing community, there were a lot of people who were immediately alienated by my accent or my wife's accent because you actually knew about the fact that there's a country named Hungary, and you also knew about the fact that there's a country named Georgia. But when you meet fishing folks in deep Georgia and you start talking to them like I'm talking to you right now, I'm immediately Russian. So there was an immediate alienation on that part, and I know that I have a thick Eastern European accent, and that shines brightly through my YouTube videos as well. But many people reached out to me saying that it's a refreshing change from Marling Bates, who is always really nice and clean and tidy and whatnot, and I'm like, organized chaos. um, yeah, so I don't know, it's been really fun. It's a really good creative outlet for me, and I need that because um, I, in my day job, I'm sitting and thinking for 8, 9, 10 hours straight because I have a PhD and I'm a neuroscience researcher. And that's my day job. So it's just fun to come home and just start carving shit. That's what I like. It just completely relaxes me. Um, and in the meantime, I got to meet so many people in the fishing community who were really welcoming, really amazing people. And for the most part, I think this is one of the healthiest communities that I've been a part of, because I had many other hobbies and whatever, but other than a handful of people, if I go up to someone, hit them up on Instagram and ask them a blatant question like, okay, how do you dial in your glide bait? They will walk me through that, and that's just fantastic. It like I don't really see envy in the maker space, which is it's really refreshing. So oh, it's been a lot of fun, and I'm trying to involve my kids more and more in this because I have two 7-year sons, and uh, they sort of like airbrushing now. So if I'm painting a dirty American shed that has like three colors, one base color and then one in the back and one in the belly, and they can do that. And that's one of the main reasons why we want to keep the company alive. It's because when I was 12, 13, I could deliver newspapers, I could shovel the snow for like $2 from my neighbors or do whatever, but they will actually have a bait business where they can just pour a resin bait and then paint it and then sell it for $50, which is for a teenager, it's an amazing opportunity, and it's a really fun time to spend some time together with my kids and the whole family.
Mm-hmm.
So it's mostly for fun, but in the past year or two, my wife definitely started thinking about taking this further. It's because we found really great success in it. People seem to like what we do, and we like doing it. So I don't know. We might pull the trigger at some point uh, to transition to full time bait making, but as we discussed earlier, we have to see where the market will settle, because I'm not necessarily convinced that um, the majority of the bait making community will survive past like 2 3 years. There will always be people out there like toxic baits who've been doing the same shit for more than a decade, and same shit. Like I have tremendous respect for those guys. They own what they do. Uh, I was really open about this to everyone. I think that those baits are ugly, but they catch fish. They, I have a couple of toxic baits in my arsenal as well, because even though I would never make those baits, I don't find them aesthetically pleasing. But baits are not for the anglers; they are for the fish, and apparently the bass and I don't have the same taste in fishing baits, because they just keep chomping those, and uh, they found they obviously when you look at those baits, they went through a ton of development, a ton of different iterations, and they settled in what truly works, and that's why I can also appreciate people who started to also manufacture ABS baits as well, like KGB Wix Pro. toxic bait stuff, because most people see it as like, an obvious cash grab, which is fair. They have this intellectual property, so why not scale it up? That's a natural development of everything. But at the same time, that's why I could actually afford buying a KGB bait from Spro for $60, because I could never afford those $180 chat chats or whatever. But yeah, so we will see what the future brings, because I honestly think that the next like 2-3 years uh, will bring a lot of change, and if people are in this space for earning money, I don't think that those people will survive this, because there are months for us as well when we are really not earning anything from this. Definitely not like winter months. Here and um, there will be a couple of orders, but it's definitely not worth it in the winter. In the summer, it's a lot better, but if we would do this for the money, we would definitely feel it in the budget starting November. Um, Even now, I think 2 years from now, the earning potential will be even lower from garage build baits. So if people are not doing this for the fun of it, I'm not sure how well it will serve most people. Luckily, we do this for fun. I would still make baits if nobody was buying it, because I'm making baits for myself. And yeah, I don't know, it's a lot of fun. It's definitely fun.
Yeah, and yeah, it's like you said. So there's because if you're like in the forums, or if you're on like Swimbait Universe on Facebook, yeah, you see people making baits and coming out with baits, and then they're like, oh, like here's a pre-order, and like you said, it's a 7-inch
Yeah,
shad style bait. Like it's not really anything new. It doesn't really do anything different than
yeah,
what your KGB or your other shad baits would do. So
yeah, yeah. And I don't really want to badmouth any company out there. Everyone can guess who we are talking about, but there are some big companies that I just cannot really understand how they are still a thing when they are selling uninspired basic swim baits or basic glide baits. And before anyone guesses that I'm talking about Mike Booker, I'm definitely not talking about them. I love them, even though, again, another company that used to sell baits that I didn't find appealing, those baits worked. And now the new baits are really, really nice. But the ones that I'm talking about with these weird scale patterns that look
mhm.
like those ugly 80s ceiling patchy patterns. Uh, I really didn't like those baits. But I had two of them. I bought them on a yard sale, and they were amazingly well. So I'm definitely not talking about them. But there are other companies out there who don't really try to give added value to the anglers, and I have absolutely zero respect for that. We are not entitled to the money uh, from these nice people, so we really have to apply ourselves and give something unique. So that is the reason why, uh, for example, I have a beef with some bigger companies as well, like Six Sense. Even though I like most of the Six Sense products and I regularly fish them, uh, I am talking about. Um, they have this crankbait. Now, this is not the one, this is the one that I painted like, I don't know, years ago. But you know the one that I'm talking about, this basic shape.
Mm-hmm.
This shape. So Six Sense actually sells this exact design crankbait for 9.95. If you go on Alibaba, because that's what I did when I first started with an airbrush, and you look up this bait, you can see that even if you only order 200 of this, and I'm guessing that Six Sense is ordering much more than 200 of these. So even if you order 200 of these, the price of these baits is 21 cents. For 21 cents, like I bought 500 of these and I still have a boatload. But that means that this is 21 cents, and after that, the painting and clear coating process is again automated for them. There's no tuning on these. There's nothing on these that actually justifies the 9.95 price point. If this would be a $3 or $4 bait, yeah, I would buy it because they actually have really nice bluegill patterns. But so that's the part that I don't like. Um, Big companies and like bigger garage bait, or like going to the bigger company status um, makers, just not applying themselves, not really giving that added value. And that's why I keep bringing up KGBs, because everyone knows who fished an original um, resin cast KGB bait. Is that uh, yeah, it has a really nice glide. You can almost do a full circle with it. It has a really nice sink rate. But when you twitch it and it does that weird nosedive down, and it settles in a new column, and when you throw it and twitch it again, and it does the exact same nosedive, so it's not a randomized movement. Those are features that you can't even start guessing how they made that. It's art, and I can respect the years and years that went into the development of those baits. So that, even though again, I didn't really find the original Chad Sheds that appealing because of their shitty scale pattern. That's that's I think the pinnacle of function. Uh, I I think that with the hyperrealism line, I could come close to the pinnacle of form. The chat sheds are definitely the pinnacle of function. That's undoubtable, I think. And yeah, for this reason, I have a ton of respect for those guys and what they are doing. But for example, they were I think they were really good indicators of where the market is uh, from last year, because they actually had to drop their prices. Okay, I take it back. I didn't mean to imply that they had to. I just know that they dropped their prices immediately after the gathering. They didn't sell out in the gathering, and they lowered the prices and stayed at the new price point. That was like a big announcement, but this is the first time that this happened in KGB history. So that's definitely a marker of um, where the market is. Um, yeah, but we will still be here, if not, be on YouTube still, because I really need this. I'm currently making a big pike swim bait. That's a ton of fun. and also developing 100 bajillion different baits. I just have to, or like my wife has to sit me down and make me focus on one thing, because as soon as I solved something in the bait making process, I just want to, yeah, next one. Maybe paint up like two for myself in bone color and then one more naturalistic color, and then move on to something completely new. That's why like I want to do chatterbait and water crawlers and whatever's like I don't know. I made like 10 different designs of bobbers, just weird, weird bobbers, like really big ones. My kids love fishing with them. But they are tucked away somewhere. We have a bobber that's like a full Japanese boat with an old guy fishing from it. It's really nicely painted, but basically the fishing rod is just a solid metal rod, and there's a hook eye on the top and the bottom. So you tie your line into like the bottom of the boat, and your line with the minnow or whatever goes from his fishing pole. So he actually has the same twitching movement as my rod when I got something on the hook. So yeah, I don't know. I just like making weird stuff and also being part of this community. That's definitely a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Why we will stay here. Now I don't know whether my wife will make the transition to full-time bait making. That would definitely help. We could produce much more baits because people keep asking about older baits, um, bringing back different older designs. Right now, I think we already have way too much. Like when you look at my website or my Instagram page, you can see the ADHD that I have. Basically, one day it's a bunch of 4.5 inch glides. The next day it's alligator wig bait, then a soft plastic, then a this, then a that, then a whatever. But at the same time, when you look at the majority of these garage bait makers, you see like 2 or 3 different baits that they do, and I can actually upload the commitment there. That's focus. That's something that I'm incapable of. But luckily, there's my wife who can focus on all of these. It's just, yeah, it's a lot of fun. Um, I don't know what else the future will bring, but definitely I think we will go more and more into bigger soft plastics. That
Mm-hmm.
that's definitely one thing that I want to do, and more realistic ones. Now, some of these bait makers are actually in neighboring countries to Hungary, so I'm thinking about, yeah, searching them out when I go home visiting. Um, yeah, but it's definitely fun. It's fun. I just don't know what the future will bring in that. But luckily, I'm surrounded with a bunch of other bait makers who are in similar situation where they just do this for the fun of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I feel lucky in that. I always drew. I always painted. My parents made me take painting classes since I was like 5. And then I did a bunch of pottery and copper etching and weird things. So I always had the know-how to paint intricate patterns. So airbrushing just felt like a natural transition, and I was definitely lucky that I could do this. Um, But on the other end of the spectrum, you have toxic baits who still refuses to pick up an airbrush, and they still produce amazing baits. So
Mm-hmm.
that is the other reason why I have tremendous respect for them, because they just found out what works. They could catch that lightning in the bottle, and I think, like, for example, the situation with them is that they just develop such a loyal fan base, because that so that loyal fan base is a testament to how good the company's relationship is with the customers, how good their customer support is, how reliable their baits are. Because again, they don't produce cheap baits, but they just work. They work really well. So, my hats off to these people, and I hope, and also their perseverance, because they've been doing this for the longest time. So, hopefully in a couple of years we will be uh, in a similar situation.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, we also have a lot of returning customers. It's just, I feel like we have to settle into something. Like 2 months ago was big cleaning on the website. We got rid of like 2/3 of the baits, because we realized that we cannot keep producing uh, 20 different types of baits uh, with the same quality. At the end of the day, it has to catch fish. It has to swim nice, and there's just a lot of tuning, hand tuning, and a lot of art that goes into properly weighing these. Um, so we decided to focus on a couple of baits
Mm-hmm.
where we can achieve that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you've touched on this multiple times. Is you want to offer the best quality and still, the best quality, but being affordable. And then you also mentioned that you're your own biggest critic. So with that, doing the best stuff that you can do. But I think that's really cool with the um, shapeshifter bait that you have, is because yeah, there's a lot of work that goes into it, and I think you have them listed for $160. But at the same time, it's like, oh, that might be a lot to spend on a bait. But at the same time, you're getting multiple different baits through this, and there's not
Yeah.
really a bait out there that does that besides maybe like a DRT Tiny Clash. Like you can switch bills and
Yeah.
tails, but there's not something quite like your bait out there.
Yeah, that was the obvious inspiration. Um, I just felt like um adding two other elements to the lips, which is modulating the sync rate and also the, like, this joint fixer, so modulating the amount of freely moving uh, uh, segments, is just something that was needed. So I don't know that I have a lot of faith in this shapeshifter. We will see what the reception to this on iCast. That's the main reason why I want to push for that, is because we were already contacted by two or maybe three, I don't know, Chinese companies who want to make an ABS version of this, because that will be much better and much faster, and like, there's nothing really that's in the way of that, because um, people can just buy this. Like, once you have that idea out there, there's nothing really black magic going on with this. Like, obviously, uh, I think one of the most viewed videos of Martin Bates is when he cut the mother chaser in half. That's because there's magic going on inside that bait. There's definitely magic. There's nothing magical about the shapeshifter. The idea, the original idea, I think it was cool. And the fact that I spent months on designing how the elements will fit, and also designing these different compartments to keep the bait completely proof and reliable and rigid, but at the same time manufacturing the compartments in a way that allows for sync rate modulation. There was a ton of things that went into that part. Um, Luckily, that's over. But once that idea is out there and I actually put it on my Instagram, everyone immediately knew how to do that. So I don't know, we will have to see how iCast goes. If the reception of these baits is indeed this good, um, we will probably move into ABS immediately with those. It's because, like, truth be told, the and I think everyone knows this who has ever made any baits, that the reason why I keep bringing KGB up is because glide baits is where it's at. That's like a truly magical bait to keep everything level, to create the perfect amount of drag, to have the absolutely optimal joint setup. That's real artistry. But you have a bake bait, just put a shit ton of lead here, nothing here, maybe two BBs to have a nice clickety clackety sound, and that's it. This will float, and you can crank it down if you put enough lead in it. Now, how much is enough? Like, water has to be like around here or whatever. Like, I I can just eyeball these baits, and they will still work. Now, the same goes into swim bait. We just back all the lead into the front segment and then make it head heavy. And during the retreat, it will swim nice and horizontal. And the same goes for every single bait that's out there, whether it's a crank down, whether it's a whatever. But glide baits are truly unique. So that's what I'm saying, is that there's nothing really magical about these baits. Again, you just have to put all the lead here, maybe a tiny bit here. And that's it. And I think anyone who has a 3D printer then could replicate this really easily. If a Chinese company wants to make this with plastic injection, this is the easiest thing in the world. But at the same time, I think this really offers something new. The reason why I made this bait is because, as I said, Georgia ponds are really overpressured, and people eat bass. There are tiny little fish everywhere, and also we have a lot of snapping turtles and whatnot, and those are the real infestation, especially in overpressure ponds. There's always night crawlers and half-eaten sandwiches the side of the pond. So turtles are just growing and growing and growing and overtaking every single pond around here. But luckily, there's actually 2 ponds where I can go and catch nice 5-6 pounders, and they are really nice elongated ponds. So I can bank fish the whole thing and cast around the whole thing and reach every single segment of it. And it's still tucked away in a national park with like half an hour little walk to get there, which means that I have to carry a ton of shit with me for half an hour. So I didn't want to carry 10 different big baits with myself. So I decided to make a single bait that I can throw in every single condition. So I found a manufacturer who makes this exact shape, little pouch for it, and that actually comes with the baits when someone buys this. So this one comes in a waterproofed canvas bag with all the lips and everything. So everything is in one place, and that's just that basically looks like a cheap pencil holder. It's that small, and then you have your hook protectors, and you can just carry big baits that will serve you in literally every condition in your back pocket. So that's why this was developed. It's for convenience, and at the same time, I had a couple of customers who said that they were eyeballing the clutch baits or the Hallelujah lures or whatever baits for a long time, but they were not necessarily rich, so they didn't want to drop 150 bucks on a bait because what if it doesn't work out? Like, I'm talking about people who never really got introduced to the big bait fishing scene. And so I have more than a handful of people who bought this bait because they said that this feels like, first of all, it's on the lighter side of big baits. This is like around 2 hours. And so they can comfortably throw it without any special equipment. They just need heavy braid line, and then they will be fine. They will be fine on like a medium heavy rod. But the thing is that they said that they could actually try out all these different baits that they never had access to, like multi-segmented wake baits or glide baits or whatever. And when they counted out, they realized that okay, it's 160 bucks, but that actually comes down to like 30 bucks per bait that you get out of a single bait. So in that sense, it was worth it for them, and then they could try out what feels comfortable for them, because depending on where they live, they might need and what type of waters they have access to, they might like pure topwater baits or fast sinking swim baits if they are fishing bigger reservoirs or whatnot, and then they could move on with that knowledge to other big baits that are specialized to that. So in that sense, this is also a really good like introductory bait. Just pain in the ass to make it. But as I said, that's not my problem. I designed it, and my wife can do the rest of it. But yeah, it was definitely fun. Um, this was like the third or fourth one that I made that really had promise. If I would have access to uh, plastic injection machines and stuff like this, then I will definitely make many more baits. I had this idea for the longest time. I actually designed everything up, and it was really amazing, but I could never really reliably print that. So basically, what I'm talking about is a cranked down bait that had this internal compartment, and the lip had a long um, like round thing protruding into the face, and that thing was held in with spring, and it had this tooth at the end. So what I'm describing is basically from the side view, this lip that was protruding into the face, and you could pull it out with the spring, and then adjust the angle from
Mm.
90 degrees to a deep diver. Uh, I spent so much time on that because, again, I felt like that's something that people might need if they really feel comfortable fishing crank down baits. Then some uh, you might hit the waters and realize that, oh, there's a storm coming, or there was a light rain, so you might need to go 2-3 feet below than what your bait is actually designed for, to do it with that. But it was not a reliable bait. Luckily, this is. So, yeah, we will see. We will see on iCast.
Yeah, exactly. Um, we're gonna start wrapping it up here. One of the big questions that I have with you uh, moving from Europe to Georgia and you're going out fishing. Do you guys hit up Bucky's for your fishing snacks?
We don't have Bucky's.
You guys don't have Bucky's around you.
Georgia doesn't have Bucky's.
Dude, I've been to a Bucky's like outside of Atlanta.
There's a Bucky's outside of Atlanta.
I do. I swear to God. Like when I was
Is it?
driving
Okay.
from.
Okay, I need to go there because I heard so much about Bucky's, and no, we have Quick Trip. That's where I always go.
Yeah. Do you guys got Wawas?
No?
No, that must just be a Florida thing.
Yeah, no, we have racetrack, speedway, Quick Trip, and then the commercial shit like Shell.
I'm literally looking at this up right now because when we were driving from okay, it's not right outside of Atlanta. It's in where does this say? Adairsville.
Oh yeah. Okay. Okay, I will definitely hit that up. Yeah, I know that there's definitely not anything around me because we live way outside of Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
But no, unfortunately, we don't have these big chains. But at the same time, you can always get like there are a couple of hidden spots, especially when I go up the Appalachian Mountains.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, there are places that look like these biker dive bars, the side of the mountain. At 6:30 in the morning, you can get the most amazing catfish po' boy,
Ooh.
made to order in like 5 minutes. And I can hit the trails, hit different spots, catch a couple of browns and rookies and whatnot, and then on my way back, I can get the most amazing southern real platter with everything on it, from briskets to um, collard greens to everything. It's just amazing. So that's the other thing why I like going up the mountains, because those are true Georgia folks, and I found that if I could if I could reincarnate, I would definitely come back as a true Georgia redneck because those people know how to have fun. Like, I got introduced to mudding and a bunch of these. Like, dude, I'm telling you, you haven't lived until you attended waterless boat race. So what that is you go out to the one of the dirt tracks. I think it's like the Atlanta Speedway, something like that. And you have these two-seater pickup trucks towing boats, like jumbo boats or whatever, not on a trailer, just on the ground. And that's basically, after that, it's NASCAR versus collision derby versus pure redneck heaven, where you have to smash into the other car with your boat. It's it, yeah, yeah. I that that is what I live for. It's amazing. Those folks are just salt of the earth, amazing people. So I'm really lucky that I came here because, as I said, I'm in research. So I have a couple of my friends in the US, and they were less lucky than me. They went to New York or San Francisco, whatever, and that's just a different kind of lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
They never held a fishing rod in their hands. They never seen a tree. So, um, yeah. So because of that, I'm just so lucky. But at the same time, I would like to fish for some nice pikes and muskies once in a blue moon.
Mm-hmm.
That's not much.
Yeah, you'll have to come up to the Midwest for that, or Tennessee. There's some spots in Tennessee that have muskie, like
Yeah.
river muskie.
Yeah, that's the shitty thing is that either I could go up or I could go down, and I would have access to amazing fish like bowfin fishing. I fished for bowfin like 2 times, and that's a fight. Like a 3 pounder bowfin will feel like a 10 pounder bass. It's amazing, and also peacock bass. The fight that they put up is awesome. Or big Tennessee gar. Yeah, that's the other thing that there are a lot of fish on my bucket list, definitely, but I want to gravitate a bit more north for some nice pike, muskie, and especially salmon fishing. That's on the list for this year.
Yeah, yeah. I right now on Facebook, like we have ice. There's some lakes
Yeah.
that already have 12 inches of ice, and I'm seeing all these people like catching like big pike right now in these lakes that I fish, and it's like, where are these pike when I'm throwing swim baits? Like I'm only catching the dinky little ones. I want to catch one,
Yeah.
30, 40 inches that these people are catching through the ice.
Yeah, yeah. I think YouTube definitely misrepresents how common these fish are and how common these big fish are. That's one of the reasons why I like Nathan's videos, because he will always just sneak it in there that yeah, I've been fishing for 10 hours straight and finally I got a bite. I've been I've been driving for 6.5 hours for this nice reservoir, and I've been fishing for 7 hours to get a bite. Yeah, that means that that's really not a common thing to catch those big pikes.
Mm-hmm.
You either have to be lucky or really persistent.
Yeah. Well, and then so like right here, a lot of people are just catching them on. Are you familiar with the concept of a ice fishing tip up?
Yeah,
So they're catching them on tip ups with live shiners.
yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. I mean, even though I'm a bait maker, I still like every second or third time that I go out, I just buy live bait because I like catching the fish.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I like fishing, but I especially when I go out with my kids.
Mm-hmm.
then I don't have the luxury to throw around the bait for 3 hours and wait for the bite because I just want to catch one on my new swim bait. No, that's when I'm fishing live bait on the Senko.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other thing, by the way, just to tie back onto what we talked about. Um, because I know I said a lot of bad things about hard plastic makers or some people without naming names, but soft plastic bait makers are the same when I see uh, black and blue Senkos from garage maker, and I have to question the sanity of these people. Like, why are you doing this? You could go to Walmart and buy a pack for like $2. Like, please just try to offer some value to the customer, and then don't make a green with black flakes or a yellow pumpkin or a black and blue Senko. Just, just stop it. Just do something that's unique.
Mm-hmm.
For that reason, I don't know if you follow unique baits.
Yeah, yeah, I do.
Yeah, I don't know. In the beginning, I really misjudged that guy, but what he's doing, this different bait every 2 3 weeks, that that looks like the dream. Like, he can be creative and sell baits as well. I like that. That yeah, I really do like that.
Yeah, yeah. I've reached out to him. He hasn't gotten back to me, so I want to have him on the podcast. Like with putting out a new bait every week, or every couple weeks. I think he's pretty busy. Um, so if you're out there listening, get back to me, Mr.
Yeah.
Unique Baits.
Yeah. Also, as I said, Lazy Baits would be definitely one of those interesting guys because he is. I know that he's moving more and more into mold making
Mm-hmm.
and basically uh, he's making really weird and unique soft plastic baits and also resin printing these molds, so like at a really affordable price point. He's definitely a creative guy who is doing some unique, really unique stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, it's an amazing community, that's for sure. I haven't met any animosity from anyone
Mm-hmm.
within the US and in Europe. Once you start reaching out to Japanese guys, they can be a bit more touchy feely. Uh, they don't necessarily like to share secrets, but that's also understandable. Once you've been doing this for like 3 generations, then that's a bit different story than me, who can say since 2021.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, Victor, thank you so much for coming on. It took us a little bit of a while to get our schedules like good for
Yeah,
this, but I really appreciate it, and you got some really cool stuff that you have. So I'm really looking forward to see what you do.
oh, thank you. Yeah, it was fun. It was definitely fun. Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, and I I really like this effort on your part as well, reaching out to um, garage bait makers because I definitely heard some unique perspectives in some of the episodes. So
Mm-hmm.
uh, it's definitely fun bringing these people a bit closer because I feel like Instagram is the same thing for us as for celebrities as well, where you put up your bait and whatever, and everything is shiny and glamorous. But at the end of the day, you are going home to your shitty garage and pouring baits on the ground. And that's what's really happening. And it's definitely fun to meet these people.
Mm-hmm.
So thanks for having me on. Definitely.
Yeah, not a problem. This was fantastic. And yeah, you touched on it. Just adding one little thing. You touched on it. So like you, like on Instagram and social media, you see the baits, but you don't get this. You don't get this interaction. You don't always see like the person behind the baits.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Like you see the end result, but it's just a close. You see the end result, but you don't see this ridiculous conception, which is, I promise you, it's nothing obscene. This is this is a special and integral part of my bait making. This is an extra large size Coke bottle from McDonald's, and I need this. This is like, I was panicking when I broke the last one, so this is my big bass mold. There's nothing glamorous about this. The end result, the bait looks awesome and whatever, but this is reality. This is how it looks like when someone's making baits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's hilarious, dude. I love that. Yeah. But yeah, once again, thank you so much. I'm sure we could freaking talk for like another
Yeah.
couple of hours, but it's 10 o'clock over there. You gotta. I don't know when you
Yeah.
get to bed, but it's getting close to my bedtime.
Yeah, it's definitely close to mine as well. Okay, then. It was a pleasure, man. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you, everybody, for listening to Garage Built Baits. I hope you enjoyed that episode, and we will see you for the next one.